gotta be honest, this stuff makes me mad. This stuff makes me mad before I got pregnant and had a child, but now, especially being a mother, this stuff makes me mad. Women are indoctrinated through and through and lied to constantly here in this country. And now we have evidence on how it's negatively affecting babies. Something that could be preventable, something that is a huge problem. We're talking about SSRIs here. I mean, this is negatively affecting new life that we're bringing into the earth. And women aren't given the option, well, they're not given the knowledge to do something about it beforehand. It's just disgusting to me. So I'm going to press play, but really quickly, if you're new to me, my name is Jennifer Cesario. I share my unpopular opinion here over on YouTube. If you're interested in topics like this, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button, pretty please, and let's see what this doctor has to say. It's not good.
Pregnant women are warned about everything. Unpasteurized cheese, deli meats, too much caffeine. But they're rarely warned about the one thing that they actually take every day that crosses the placenta and can cause a lot of...
Yeah, really quickly, being pregnant, the things that we're told are bad for you or not to eat, the things that they focus on uh, aren't seen as a bad thing in most other countries, which I find really funny, but very typical for this country. The whole, like, this, all of the standards of what you should eat and how you should take care of your body and stuff. It really, RFK needs to dive into the whole pregnancy sector of health. It's not good.
Problems in newborns, and that is SSRIs. And so in this video, we're going to be talking about what happens when these drugs are suddenly stopped at birth and why so few people are talking about it. Around 10% of pregnant women in the US are prescribed SSRIs, and while the baby is growing inside mom, their brains are adapting to the presence of this serotonin drug. Now, unless the mom tapers off these medications completely before birth, when that umbilical cord is cut, that baby is plunged into withdrawal. There is no gradual reduction, no tapering, just an abrupt stop. Now, for a brain that has adapted to being on this chemical for the last 9 months, this can cause all sorts of problems.
Of course it can. I mean, it's terrible to begin with that you're creating new life, already being dependent on a drug that they don't even need. You're affecting their brain development. Their innocent, pure little brains are being formed thinking that they need this drug to survive when they haven't even left the womb. It's insane.
With their mood and arousal, temperature dysregulation, breathing problems, even feeding problems. And in case you're suspecting...
And let me just say this. I'm not a doctor, obviously, but I'm pretty damn sure that a lot of people on SSRIs or other drugs that help with your mood, help with your anxiety, help with your stress, help with your depression, all of that. If that person changed their diet, got sunlight first thing when they woke up and on a regular basis, and exercised and got enough sleep, and probably quit the job that they hate, they wouldn't need that drug. And on top of it, it's angering to me that people are told that they need this. They need this to live a better life. They need this to fix themselves. Nothing else is going to do it. This magic pill that then they start taking it and they start messing with the levels of all of your neurotransmitters, and we're going to give you a higher dose of this, and then we're going to also add this pill, and then we're going to decrease the dose of this. And I've never been on these drugs, but I've seen the effect that they have had on many of my friends. And again, we just went back to the basics. Change your diet, sleep, lower your stress, do something you love, get sunlight every day. Like, nature we're we're part of nature. Hello, nature knows how to cure us. Nature knows how to fix us. Not this weird world that we live in that we created that's terrible for us.
That, hey, maybe this is okay because if mom keeps taking the medication, it's going to be in the breast milk. The baby's going to be okay. Unfortunately, that's not the case. The amount of drug in the breast milk is substantially less than what the baby is getting when they are plugged into the mom essentially through the umbilical cord. And so even with breastfeeding, it still plunges the baby into withdrawal. Now, generally what you'll notice is that within a few hours to a few days of birth, baby can develop the following symptoms. They can develop tremors, jitteriness, irritability, high-pitched crying, sleep disturbances. Sometimes, even rarely, they can develop seizures. They have temperature dysregulation, sweating problems, even respiratory distress, such as rapid breathing or apnea, where they stop breathing. They can struggle to latch onto mom and feed afterwards, and they can experience things like vomiting and dehydration. Another serious concern is hypoglycemia, where they develop very low levels of blood sugar. And these symptoms are
And why would you want to put your baby at risk for something like that? But again, these moms aren't warned about this. These moms aren't told about this. I'm not saying all of them would choose to get off their SSRIs or do something about it, but I'm sure a lot of them would at least give them the option. And I just cringe inside because I remember how fragile my son was as a newborn. I mean, he still is. He's only just shy of 6 months old. I didn't grow up around babies or newborns, so that was really my first experience with a newborn. And he just is so fragile and fresh and delicate and scared. They're scared, they're confused, and just to think that he could experience all of those things because of something I was taking that I may have had the option to not just breaks my
all
heart.
really similar to what we see with withdrawals from other medications like opiates or even benzodiazepines. Now,
Yeah,
how common
exactly.
is
A
this?
drug is a
Well, it's
drug.
actually really hard to measure, so it's hard to get data on exactly how many babies experience this. Some researchers have put it at around 30%, but I suspect it's higher because obviously it's hard to measure and these children can't tell you how they're feeling. One of the most unfortunate things that I see in this space is that many doctors will tell the mom that this is mild and transient. And I get it. They want to reassure the mom and minimize the concern about this, potentially significant problem. But that's
I think your job as a doctor is to be honest and to share the facts and the scientific evidence and the scientific knowledge that you have, not dance around uncomfortable conversations and make sure the mom is not freaking out. No, you need to let her know the dangers so she can be in control of the health of her child.
not what the data shows because I wish it was mild and transient. And it's possible that it is for many. But when Albright and his colleagues in 2001 did a study where they looked at 4,900 full term births at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, here is what they found. They found that the SSRI exposed infants were more likely to require neonatal resuscitation after birth compared
Mm.
to those who were not exposed. The rate was 12.9% in the exposed group and 4.2% in the unexposed group. To me, that's quite a difference. On top of that, they found that there was a doubling in chance that the babies who were exposed to antidepressants got admitted to the neonatal intensive care unit.
Mm,
Ultimately, these authors concluded that these
heartbreaking.
findings support a recommendation that third trimester SSRI exposure needs to be considered a risk for a baby needing resuscitation following birth. And one thing about this that really bothers me is that there appears to be an effort to minimize this particular side effect. It's a double standard because when moms are taking opiates or even benzodiazepines, a lot of doctors will tell them, hey, baby is exposed to this, the baby's going to go into withdrawal, and this could be serious.
Mhm.
But when it comes to antidepressants, doctors downplay it. They even use a different phrase. Instead of saying, hey, the baby's going to go into withdrawal, a lot of doctors will say they will develop poor neonatal adaptation syndrome. This is essentially saying withdrawal, but doctors often choose this kind of sanitized language when it comes to antidepressants, believing that
Why?
this somehow combats stigma. Now, there's a big problem in psychiatry where if you talk about real, genuine risks that are even in the labels of these medications, People will say, oh, you're stigmatizing people. You're scaring them away from drugs. There's a big difference between saying, hey, you're a weak person for needing this medication. Shame on you. And just saying, a spade is a spade. This is what's happening. Unfortunately, doctors aren't doing this in psychiatry, and they often downplay or soft pedal some of these side effects.
That's disgusting. That just shows that they're putting their own self-interest first. You're not able to control somebody and how scared they feel about something at the end of the day. It's your job to share all of the facts and knowledge so somebody can make an educated decision. They're trusting your guidance as a psychiatrist.
And using this term neonatal adaptation syndrome as if, oh, the baby's just going to have a little bit of a hard time adapting. No, this is drug withdrawal, and the sanitized language does not help. Because do you know who is surprised afterwards? The moms are surprised when their baby is born and it's having a really hard time. And then they go and they search and they ask more questions. And then the doctor says, well, yes, they're actually in withdrawal. And, there's a 12% chance that they could end up needing resuscitation. And the mom says, well, why didn't anyone tell me this while I was pregnant? Why didn't anyone tell me this when I was, talking to the doctor about, wanting to conceive and have a pregnancy? I needed to have known earlier. So this is a big problem. And so what should we be doing differently? Well, obviously we need to be talking to moms about the risks of their baby abruptly going into withdrawal when they are born. Most women want to know this before they even start to think about having a baby. And they need to, because the worst time to come off a medication is when you're pregnant. There are hormonal fluctuations, which can cause mood instability.
You're already going through so many hormonal fluctuations.
Many women are juggling jobs and looking after other children, and they're also dealing with the fatigue from the pregnancy. And so coming off a medication at this time is really high risk. Another thing that I see moms do, which I do not recommend, is to rush to come off the medication towards the end of the pregnancy to prevent withdrawal. Generally, they are going to go too fast, and then they'll trigger a withdrawal syndrome in themselves, and they'll become really depressed, which
compound that on top of the postpartum depression a lot of women have. That's dangerous. That's dangerous.
Obviously, hugely problematic as well. The best time to come off this medication is before you even become pregnant. Now, if the information in this video troubled you, I wish this was the end of it, because there's actually other issues that you need to be aware of, and those involve the changes to the brains and to the behavior of the infants who are exposed to SSRIs during neurological development when they are still in mom. And so if you want to learn more about this,
and like he says, the best time to come off these drugs is before you even get pregnant. And we know how damaging these drugs are. The best, even for people who aren't planning on getting pregnant, should get off these drugs. And it's such a sham and a scam that doctors don't tell people what they need to try and what they need to do and change first before thinking about getting on these drugs. We give out these drugs like they're candy and mess with people's neurotransmitters so that their life becomes dependent on them. And it's so sad. Other countries don't have this problem. Why are we stuck in this vicious cycle? I think we all know why, but I'd love to hear from you in the comments below what you think about this, what you think about our never-ending drug cycle here in America. And hopefully, if you are somebody who's on these or know somebody who's on these and are planning on getting pregnant, you can help share some of this information to them. So go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Again, leave me a comment below, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time.